What is up, my little ratties? Today we're gonna be playing Dress to Impress, of course, or I guess we're not like really playing, I don't know. Today we are going to be doing a custom makeup and hair guide. So I am going to be going over the basics of custom makeup, and then after that I'm going to give a bunch of tutorials of my like most highly sought after faces. And then I'm also going to give like a small rundown on hair combos, and then again show you guys my most requested hair combos. I will also have timestamps in the description, so if you don't need help on like custom makeup or hair combos and you just want to see the finished product and how to get to that, you can just skip ahead, okay? You don't have to watch me explain everything, but I think that this will be helpful for people who don't really know how custom makeup works, or also just for people who have watched my videos and want to see my specific hairs and faces in their own game. Hopefully this goes okay, but remember to like the video and subscribe, and let's just get right into it. Before we get into actual custom makeup, I do just want to talk about skin tones first of all, just because when you first load into Dress to Impress, this is what your skin looks like, and I feel like this is a part that a lot of people glaze over. So when you go into the skin tone booth, you might be like a little bit overwhelmed because there's not really a set like specific skin tone. The only ones that they give you are these, which obviously does not encompass every skin tone. It doesn't show cooler tones or warmer tones. We just have like a very basic set here, which I think is fine because you can make your own. But I just wanted to start off by giving you guys my personal most used skin tones. So here is the darkest skin tone that I typically use. This is the exact shade. This is usually the second darkest shade that I use. Here is the exact shade here as well. You can copy this hex code into your game. Here is typically the third darkest skin tone that I usually use, and this is the hex code here. This is one of my fairer shades that I use. This is the exact hex code. And then here is typically the most pale shade that I will use. Obviously you can go darker and lighter than the colors that I have listed here. This is just typically how I do it though. Feel free to do whatever you want, okay? If you want to be this light, that is completely fine. It doesn't matter, we're playing a dress-up game, okay? But that's just what I typically do. This is another shade that I use, which is obviously very desaturated and a little bit more on the grayer side. I like to use this skin tone for like alternative themes and things like that. Obviously the gray skin tone debacle is pretty controversial, so not everybody loves it, but if I was going to use any sort of gray skin, this is the skin shade that I personally use. Now when you first step into the makeup chair, you are going to see so many buttons, okay? So this one will be your eyes, this will be your eyebrows, these will be your lips, this is your shading, and then here is all of the other extra details. This little button shows you all of your saved makeup. If you have never used custom makeup before and you are new to this, obviously there won't be anything here. But a question I do get a lot is, how do I equip my skin tone with my faces? So as you can see, I have tan skin, and then I have light skin, and then I have lighter skin, and that is because of this button here. So you can choose to equip your faces with the skin color, or you can choose to not. Most of the time I use this feature if I want to use like a non-human look. So let's say I want to do like green skin, I would equip this with my skin color and then turn this off, and then I would like pick another one, and then obviously I could recolor that from there. So I would just change everything else. Otherwise though, most of the time this button should be on if you're just equipping your faces. When it comes to custom makeup though, obviously usually the first step you're going to do is the eyes. So as we have progressed in Dress to Impress, there has been a lot more added to custom makeup. So now we can customize our shading. So you can choose to have no shading around the eye. You can color it so it has like blue. If you are using a darker complexion, a lot of the time you do want to darken it a little bit so it will match your shade. And then some of them even have like little things like this eye glow. Isn't that so cool? But if I didn't want it, I could just make it black and then it's just not even there, and I have very like basic eyes. The only thing I would say to keep in mind is to always be checking on your shading. Even if you are using fairer skin, sometimes I think it looks pretty just to make things a little bit blue, because it does counteract the very red shading that a lot of the eyes have, which isn't always what I'm personally going for. But as a general rule, I would not just pick eyes and then go from there, because all of the eyes are going to look very different depending on what the rest of your face looks like. So for example, the eyes in relation to the nose and the lips, they might not fit very well. I just think it's good to remember that you can change things. So if you get to the end of your face and you notice that, oh, maybe maybe the nose is a little bit too close to the eyes, or the lips are a little bit too close to the nose. You can go back and just change little things. Typically when I make my faces, I am going back and changing things a lot, and sometimes the outcome is nothing like what I thought it would be. But for eyes, I do have some favorites. So these eyes are super cute. I'm not a big fan of them when they have color to them though. I usually only like them when they're fully blacked out, because I don't know if it's just me, but the pupils are kind of not there, which does kind of give me an uncanny vibe. Obviously though, if that's how you want to do it, that's completely fine. I do find myself to gravitate towards like more big animated eyes. So think like these eyes here. I love 174. I think 169 is also super cute. I just really do prefer doe eyes. There are a few more like siren-y eyes that I also really like. I think 227 is super cute. I really like 230. This is one of my favorite ones. My only complaint is that this shine cannot be removed, and even if you layer like an eyeshadow over it, like let's say I make it all the way black, I just make all of this completely pitch black, it still shows up. So there's no way to get rid of that, which does make it pretty hard to use on darker complexions. But for the most part, I do really like these eyes. These are also super cute to me. They do have a very unique shape, which I love when we get more diverse things that we don't have before. I feel like a lot of the eyes do just look the same, so it's wonderful to get something new. I also really like 247. We're gonna use these eyes for this face. Maybe I'm going to lower the shading a little bit. I do feel like it is a bit dark. And then for our eyebrows, I don't really know, you guys. I'm not really good at eyebrows. I do tend to just use the same ones over and over again. Personally for me though, I do prefer a straight brow. I love like these are so cute. Obviously all makeup looks and custom makeup is all down to personal preference, but if you want to emulate my custom makeup style, I do prefer more straight thin brows. Like these are perfect. I love them. And then for lips, again, because Dress to Impress has changed so much in custom makeup and has improved, a lot of these will have extra swatches like this one. This is cute. We can color the outer lip separate from the inner lip, so you can have a super cute like two-toned lip, which I think is adorable. Having more customization is always great. I personally love a pouty lip, so I will go for something like this, 256. I also really like 245 and 248. 241 is also a great option. I love, again, a two-toned lip, and this definitely gives very like K-beauty with like their ombre lips. I think 226 is wonderful. And then if we were talking about older lips, 88 is still one of my favorite lips ever, and it has been in the game for quite a while, but a lot of the newer lips are more glossy, so if you're looking for a good matte lip, I think that this is a good choice. Now if we're talking about like how to color lips, which I do know a lot of people struggle with as well, I typically will just go to whatever like around the skin tone is. Like this is pretty close to my skin tone. It's not perfect obviously, but it's in the same realm. And then I'll just add some more saturation here like that, and maybe I'll darken it a little bit, and then I think that usually does end up in like the perfect pinky tone. And then I find that it works the same with darker skin tones, so I will just sort of try to go to around where I think the skin tone is. I feel like this is pretty close, and then I'll just darken it and maybe add some more saturation, and then that's usually what I will go for. But that is because I prefer a more natural lip. Obviously you can have just like pinky lips on a darker skin face. I think that's completely fine too, and it looks super cute. I just love a natural look, so I'll just usually typically keep them pretty close to their skin tone. Also, if you were curious, for these eyes to make them fit on this darker complexion character, I did darken it. I made it like a dark brown, and I lowered the opacity a little bit. So if I had this skin tone and then I just put this one on, this is what the eyes would have looked like without me adjusting them at all. And then here's what they look like with adjustment. I do notice that a lot of the times I have issues with somebody's custom makeup. It's because I notice that they don't color things like that, which I feel like just makes the look a lot more seamless. The next step is shading after you have done your lips. I think all of these are so cute. Now, for a very long time, I was very loyal to this shading here. I still think it's really cute, but I definitely overused it. This is still one of my favorites though. So So it basically just adds like a triangle highlight, and typically I would just maybe add some more pigmentation and darken it a little bit so we don't have the like powdered donut look. Sometimes people like that and that's what they're going for. It's not really my style though. Another one of my favorites is this one here. I think it's very cute, very subtle. I'll also oftentimes lower the opacity a little bit. I really just like a natural look, so you will probably see me do that a lot throughout this video. I think this one is super cute too. The blush is just a lot, so again, I will lower the opacity most of the time. 61 is also really great, and we also shouldn't sleep on the masculine assets too. I feel like some of these work really well, especially if we're going for a more like intense look. Like 64 is cute. I really like this one. I used to really be a fan of 19 as well. Just make sure you're using all of your options because you paid for custom makeup, and that includes the masculine section as well, even if you are making a feminine face. For this tutorial though, I'm going to use 66 in this shade and this opacity. Now my next step would be to add a nose. I'm sure there are still some nose knowers, I guess. I don't know. Some people I'm sure still don't like the noses. That was a big thing back in the day. People hated the nose, but nowadays if you don't have one, people are gonna look at you a little bit crazy. I really feel like all of the noses are beautiful and they work well in their own ways. Really, the main issue or thing to be aware of is the proportions. Like personally, I probably wouldn't use this nose because I do feel like it is a little bit high up on the face. That's just my personal preference though. If you like a higher set nose, feel free to go for it, but that's just something that I look out for. Same with this nose. I think the proportions are fine, but it is quite dark. I guess if you really wanted to use it, you could lower the opacity, but generally I feel like I would just have to use a darker skin in order to use this nose and make it look natural, I guess. In general, my favorite noses are 521, 436. I also really like 430. Again, I would just be very specific about the lips that I use because it is a higher set nose. I also really like 266. It adds this little crease on the corner of the eyes, which I think is super unique. No other noses that I know of do that. 557 is another one of my favorites. For this specific tutorial, I am going to use 502. Now, where I would go from here is maybe add liner. My favorite liner is all the way at the bottom of the other section. This one, I feel like she's so simple, so chic, very clean, a very normal eyeliner. There's nothing too crazy going on. It's just one of my favorites to add some subtle detail. A lot of the newer eyeshadows also have like so many toggles. So like this one, for example, you can color just this by itself. We could just make that like pink. This could be all the way gone if we didn't want it. And then we could do just like some white here and then white for you. You can like fully customize all of these. It's so cool. So make sure to take your time and really look over everything so you know exactly what is possible, because honestly at this point the possibilities are endless with custom makeup. Again, like I said though, I do personally prefer a more natural look, so something like this is probably the extent that I would do, and I would keep it just very neutral, very close to her skin shade. That does not mean that that's something that you have to do. It's just my own personal preference. This detail here is also super cool. I really like this one. It adds like a little face highlight. I would make it a little bit closer to your skin tone so it doesn't stand out like too much in a way that is like off-putting. Maybe even lower the opacity, but it adds such cool detail. And then for me, moles and freckles are like a non-negotiable. I need to have them. I think they just bring the face to life. There is lots of other just like little accessories that you can add in the other section too, like these little pearls all over my face. Most of the piercings are also in this section. Definitely, again, make sure to go through and really get acquainted with all of the options here. I think that this is also cool. This is a little like eye bag, which is really good for more like grungy faces that you're making, and also of course non-human faces. I did also want to mention before we moved on that it is very important to color your nose. I don't think it's really necessary with this face specifically. I think it's fine. Maybe it could be a little blue to offset some of the pink, but overall I think that this is super cute. But then as you can see, if I were to use a darker complexion and then I were to equip this face, lots of things would need to be changed. So I'm just going to go over that with you guys so you can see if you want to use darker skin complexions, how I personally would make it fit. So first of all, like I was talking about, I would make this a darker brown, and I think the opacity is fine there. For the eyebrows, I might darken them a little bit. I think that this still works perfectly fine. For the lips, I'm going to do what I was talking about, where I kind of found her shade and then made it a little bit darker. These are gorgeous. For the shading, I am going to make that more on the brown side as well. We'll definitely make it a little bit darker and lower the opacity, but I think that's cute. Something I do typically do when I do darker skins is I will add this, just because I feel like some of the time the shading here does give it like an orange cast, or it just isn't like the right shade. So I'll add you, and then I will make something more accurate to her actual skin tone, like this, but maybe just a little darker. I think that's so cute. Now for the nose, I could technically leave it like this, but I just don't think it looks natural at all. So I would darken the nose a little bit, maybe make it more on the brown side as well. And then for this second toggle, I would lower the opacity so the white isn't so like striking. The eyeliner can stay the same, and then I'm basically just going to darken the things that I have here. This pink is fine, actually. We'll leave that alone. But then here is my completed face, but with a darker skin. We did obviously have to change quite a few things, but I do think it makes the world of a difference if you just make sure to color things with your skin tone in mind. I've just seen so many people with faces like this, and I guess if that's the look that you're going for, it's fine, but I do feel like faces in general do look a lot more human-like if you do color them to match your skin tone. But if you were following along, you now have your first Miesha face, which is so wonderful. Now from this, we are going to go into the makeup tutorial phase. So if you just came here for the guide and you don't want to see any of my specific faces, make sure to skip ahead. We will be talking about hairs next. This is the first face that I'm going to give you guys a tutorial on. This is the skin tone that you're going to use. You'll add 263 for the eyes and make them all the way black. You can leave the shading alone, maybe lower the opacity like a smidge, then add 187 for your eyebrows and make those all the way black. You'll add 226 for your lips and make them this shade. Then you'll add this shading here and you'll make that this hex code and lower the opacity to 70%. Then you're going to add 502 for your nose. You can leave the first toggle alone, but then lower the opacity on the second one to 46%. Then you'll add this blush and make it this hex code. You'll also add this blush and make that this hex code. Add these moles, number 143. Then add this detail in the other section, number 441. Keep it white and then lower the opacity to 59%. You'll also add this here, number 240, and then you'll lower the opacity to 59%. Then add 441 and leave everything the same. And there you go, you have your next Miesha face. This is one of my favorites. I love how like cutie it is. Her eyes, her lips, her makeup, everything. I'm obsessed with this one. This is the next face I'm going to show you how to recreate. You're going to use the same skin tone as the last face and then use 261 for your eyes and make those black. You'll leave the shading and everything the same. Then you'll add 214 for your eyebrows and make them this hex code. Add these DLC lips. Make the first toggle this hex code, the second toggle this hex code, and the third toggle this hex code. These are DLC lips, so my recommendation for replacements would be 239, 150, 117, and of course, if you guys have any suggestions, make sure to put them in the comments if you think any other of the base lips would fit this face more than the ones that I've listed before. You're gonna add 44 for your shading. You'll make it this hex code. Then you'll add this highlight and make it this hex code. Then you'll add this highlight and make that this hex code and lower the opacity to 48%. You'll add nose 557 and make it this hex code. Then lower the opacity of the second toggle to 57. You'll add 247 for your moles. Then add this septum ring. Then add this eyeshadow. Make the first color this hex code and lower the second toggle to 95%. And there you go, you have your next Miesha face. This is one of my favorite ones. She is a little bit newer. I haven't had her for very long, but I think she's gorgeous. This is the next face that I'm going to show you how to make. You're going to want to use this skin hex code. You'll add 105 for your eyes and make them this hex code. Unfortunately, they do have this like very prominent red ring around them. There is no shading option on them though, just because they are an older eye. So unfortunately, that's just how it is. I'm sorry. Then you'll add 177 for your eyebrows and make them this hex code. You'll add 238 for your lips and you'll make them this hex code. You'll add 65 for your shading and make that this hex code with 74% as the opacity. Then you'll add this highlight and make that this hex code. Add 387 for your blush and make that this hex code and lower the opacity to 63%. I know that the blue does look a little bit weird, but it just kind of cancels out the red so it matches more on different skin tones. That's a great hack. If you ever want to cancel out any of the red, just make it a little blue. It definitely looks weird on this side, but obviously it looks very pretty on her face. Then you'll add 341 for your eyeshadow and make that this hex code and lower the opacity to 82%. This is a DLC eyeshadow, but honestly, I think it looks just as pretty without it. So I wouldn't really really feel the need to add anything else, but of course you can experiment if you do prefer an eyeshadow look. Then add 487 for your moles and number 4 as well. Then add 343 for your nose and make it this hex code. That nose is unfortunately a DLC nose, but I think 557 is a great alternative if you just make it a darker brown. I think that 586 could also be a great alternative. And there you go, you have your next Miesha face. This is another one of my favorites. I love the cutesy look. As you guys can tell, I just kind of like cutesy faces. I really do love the big eyes, and I feel like they fit cutesy faces obviously the most. So that's just typically what I lean towards. This is the next face I'm going to show you how to make. Obviously we took a big jump. Okay, this one looks a little bit different than my other ones, but I still think she's super cute. This is the skin tone you're going to want to use. You'll add 230 for your eyes and make those all the way black. Then you'll add 206 for your eyebrows and make those all the way black. Add 242 for your lips and make them this hex code. These are also unfortunately DLC lips. So as an alternative, I would choose 239, 238, 267, or 224 if I didn't have the DLC. Add 59 for your shading and lower the opacity to 58%. Add 230 for your nose and make it this hex code. This one is also a DLC nose, but if you add any similar button nose, it will achieve the same look. Then add both of these piercings. You can leave the coloring and opacity default. You'll also add these moles, then add 301 and make that all the way black. And last but not least, you're going to head over to the masculine section and add these dimple piercings. You can also leave that default. And there you go, you have your last Miesha face. I hope that these were helpful and maybe you like some of them and put them in your own game. I think that would be super cool. I love when I'm playing Dress to Impress and I notice like, oh my gosh, that's literally my face. It's so freaking cool. But now we are going to be moving on to the hair section. If you guys have any questions about anything that I talked about previously though, put them in the comments below and I'm sure all of my ratties will also be very happy to help. So I don't really have much to say in regards to my tips for making hair combos because it really is trial and error. I think the most important part is getting yourself familiar with all of the hairs that we have in Dress to Impress and mostly learning their toggles. So for example, I know that this hair has an only bangs toggle and that could be perfect for specific hair combos, and this one as well, it has only bangs. Definitely also familiarize yourself more with item adjustment. I feel like that is a big part of hair combos nowadays, at least. It definitely wasn't back in the day, but now most people do create their hair combos with item adjustment. So mainly get familiar, look at Pinterest for inspo from real hair. I think that's also super helpful because then you know like what you want to create in Dress to Impress and you can find a good way to do that. So now I'm just going to give you guys a few tutorials on my most requested hair combos. This is the first hair combo I'm going to show you how to make. I just want to give credit where credit is due though. This is inspired by Sorenbay and it does include her item adjustment of like this bang here. Obviously I don't have all of those bangs in mine, but I do want to say I am very heavily inspired by this one. I think it's so cute. I just wanted a more like toned back one, I guess. I don't know if you guys could tell from my faces, but I am a very minimalist girly, okay? I don't like when a lot is going on. But for this hair combo, we're going to use this hex code. Then we're going to add this hair. We'll change the Y position to 0.49 and scale it to 0.45. Then we're going to add this ponytail and we'll toggle that to only bangs. Change the Y position to 0.49 and the Y rotate to 0.52. Then you'll add this hair here, toggle that to only bangs. Then change the X position to 0.49 and the Y position to 0.47. Then change the X rotate to 54, the Y rotate to 48, and the Z rotate to 51. Then add these braids, change the Y position to 0.49, the Z position to 0.58, and the scale to 0.46. And there you go, you have your first Miesha hair combo. Again, this one is very inspired by Sorenbay, so all credits go to her. She is so freaking talented. I also have gotten a lot of comments asking how to make this hair. Obviously, I'm not going to give that tutorial because it's not my hair, okay? But make sure to check her out if you want to see how to make it. This is another very requested hair. It's just a cute little pigtail space bun moment. For this hair, I rotate this hex code and this hex code. So just kind of sprinkle them both in there if you want my exact coloring. First, you're going to want to add these braids, toggle off the flower and off the braids, then add this hair, toggle it to only bangs, change the Z position to 0.48 and scale it to 0.33, then add this hair, toggle it to only bangs, then add this ponytail, toggle it to no bangs, change the Y position to 0.52 and the Z position to 0.52, then change the X rotate to 0.48, the Y rotate to 0.53 and the Z rotate to 0.45, then scale that to 0.37, then add this hair, change the Y position to 0.51 and the Z position to 0.53, then change the X rotate to 0.45, the Y rotate to 0.43 and scale that to 0.30. And there you go, you have your second Miesha hair combo. I think this one is very cutesy. I love it for a lot of themes. I would say maybe don't save it in this specific hair color though, unless you're planning on using it for darker themes as well. I always go for lighter hair for lighter themes and darker hair for darker themes. I don't really know why, but that's how I do it. So in hindsight, I probably should have saved this with a lighter hair color, but overall, I think this hair combo is super cute. This is the next hair combo that I'm going to show you how to recreate. You're going to use this hex code for the color. First, add this hair, toggle it to no bangs, then add this hair and toggle it to only bangs. Change the X position to 0.51, the rotate Z position to 0.52 and scale that to 0.45. Then add this hair, toggle that to only bangs, then add this hair, change the Y position to 0.49 and the Z position to 0.49, then change the X rotate to 0.51 and scale it to 0.25, then add this hair and toggle it to only bangs. And there you go, you have another Miesha hair. I think this one is so cute. She's very basic as well, so very versatile for a lot of different themes. I also have this longer variation, which includes this new hair as well, and the adjustments for that are the Y position to 0.39, the Z position to 0.60, the X rotate to 0.53 and the Y rotate to 0.51, and then you'll scale that to 0.68. I personally do prefer the like slightly shorter one, but I think that that's also a cute option. All right, you guys, that was all we had time for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know if you found any of this helpful. What was your favorite hair and makeup that I showed you how to recreate in this video? I would love to know. But again, if you guys have any questions or concerns, make sure to leave them down in the comments below, because me and my ratties will try our best to help you and solve your issues. We are all going to get so cute together, okay? But if you like today's video, make sure to leave a like, maybe comment, maybe subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.